The Mayan Civilization. Did they vanish overnight? At the height of their power, the Maya built celestial temples so precise they could predict solar eclipses 1,000 years in advance. Then, in the span of a single generation, their greatest cities became ghost towns, food still in cooking pots, tools left mid-craft. No invading armies, no apocalyptic volcanoes, just an entire civilization walking away from their life's work. Now, cutting-edge science is finally revealing what really happened in those last desperate days. For 600 years, Maya civilization flourished across Central America with mathematical precision, their calendars more accurate than Europe's at the time. At Tikal alone, 60,000 citizens lived among towering pyramids that still take your breath away today. Their engineers built reservoirs that held 20 million gallons. Their artists painted murals that still glow with color after 12 centuries. Then around 850 AD, the dedicatory monuments stopped mid-sentence, like someone switched off the lights across the southern lowlands. In some cities, the elite compounds show signs of deliberate, almost ritualistic destruction before being abandoned. While the northern cities like Chichen Itza would later rise, the classic Maya's heartland never recovered its glory. Deep in Lake Chichancanab's sediments, scientists found gypsum crystals that could only form under extreme drought, proof of a century-long megadrought beginning precisely when cities fell. Tree rings from sacred sabas tell the same story, year after year of stunted growth during what should have been the rainy season. At Cancun, archaeologists found a king's skeleton still wearing his jade regalia, murdered on his palace steps mid-construction project. Tikal's last monuments show captured rulers from rival cities, their names deliberately defaced in a frenzy of score settling. Soil analysis reveals the tragic irony. Their own plaster production deforested hillsides, causing the very erosion that doomed their farms. In the final days, starving populations turned even their ball courts into makeshift cornfields, violating sacred ground for survival. Trade goods tell their own story. No new obsidian after 850 AD, just broken tools being endlessly resharpened in desperation. At some cities, the elite compounds burned while commoners' homes stood untouched, suggesting class warfare in the final days. Yet in the north, cities like Uxmal thrived during this same period, proof the collapse wasn't universal, just catastrophic for the heartland. The terrifying truth, all these factors reinforced each other. Drought weakened trade, famine toppled kings, and chaos became irreversible. Maya kings weren't just rulers, they were the living conduits to the gods, responsible for bringing rains and bountiful harvests through blood sacrifice. When the rains failed year after year, their divine contracts broke. At Tanina, rebels burned every royal portrait in the city's records. Archaeologists found throne rooms where monuments had been ritually killed, their carved faces smashed and buried in symbolic regicide. At Copan, the last king desperately ordered 3x more monuments than his predecessors, propaganda failing against reality's tide. Some rulers turned to terror. At Dos Pilas, a king displayed his captured rival's skeleton as a throne ornament. The collapse of trust was literal. Water reservoirs show elite compounds had private supplies while commoners dug dry wells. In the end, people voted with their feet. Pollen records show cornfields reverting to wild plants as populations dispersed. Some cities experimented with council rule. At Caracol, the last inscriptions mention joint lords instead of divine kings. The final insult, later Maya would reuse the stones of their ancestors' temples to build simple farm walls. This wasn't just political collapse, it was the unmaking of an entire cosmic order that had lasted 7 centuries. The Maya economic miracle ran on obsidian blades from Guatemala, jade from the Motagua Valley, and salt from the Yucatan coast, a 1,500-year-old supply chain. Then at Cancun, archaeologists found a royal trade hub's warehouses still packed with unused jade blanks when violence came, the economic seizure preserved in stone. Coastal ports like Cerros show no new construction after 880, their docks literally crumbling into the sea as maintenance ceased. The telltale sign, elite tombs after 850 AD contain recycled heirlooms rather than new jade, kings being buried with their grandparents' jewelry. At Tikal, chemists analyzed pottery and found a shocking truth. Their elite polychrome vessels were now just painted clay, the mineral pigments too expensive to import. Merchants became the last desperate couriers. One burial at Altan Ha holds a trader who died carrying nothing but cacao beans and bad news. The final insult: northern cities developed new trade networks that deliberately bypassed the collapsing south, economic abandonment compounding ecological disaster. In the end, they couldn't even maintain the sacred ceiba tree roots. GPS shows ancient paths swallowed by jungle within a generation. The most poignant find: a child's grave at Karakol containing a single jade bead, what passed for wealth when trade died. This wasn't just lost commerce, it was the severing of a civilization's circulatory system, leaving its heart to fail. While no mass graves have been found, forensic clues whisper of health crises. At Zoltan, every third skeleton from the collapse era shows signs of chronic anemia. Their own art warns us. Dresden Codex pages show the death god carrying bundles marked with fire, possibly symbolizing fever epidemics. Soil analysis at Piedras Negras revealed something chilling. Latrine layers from the 9th century contain unusual parasite eggs matching modern dysentery outbreaks. Skeletons tell the story their monuments don't. At Köppen, 80% of collapse-era remains show enamel hypoplasia, proof of childhood starvation or disease. The cruel twist: their sophisticated water systems may have backfired, stagnant reservoirs becoming breeding grounds for waterborne pathogens when maintenance lapsed. Some cities show evidence of quarantine attempts. At El Peru Huaca, a structure was hastily converted to hold 30-plus bodies in isolation before burning. Yet this wasn't the Black Death. No single pathogen explains the collapse, rather a malnourished population facing multiple infections at once. The smoking gun: geneticists found modern Maya descendants carry elevated immune genes for ancient diseases, scars written in their DNA. Perhaps the greatest tragedy: those who survived the epidemics then walked into a world with no functioning hospitals, no healers, no hope. Disease may not have killed the Maya civilization, but it certainly helped unmake the society that could have fought back. Contrary to myth, the Maya never vanished. Modern DNA studies prove 80% of indigenous Yucatan residents carry their ancestors' blood. At Lamanai, life continued uninterrupted, its residents simply painted over old gods with new deities as the world changed around them. Some became the post-classic Maya, rebuilding at Mayapan with brutal pragmatism, their once sacred ball courts now marketplaces. Deep in the Guatemalan highlands, the Quiche people still perform the same rain ceremonies their ancestors did at Tikal's peak. Spanish chronicles describe meeting refugees in 1524 who could still recite their abandoned city's founding dates from memory. The Popol Vuh, their sacred text, survived hidden in a priest's home, preserving stories older than Europe's cathedrals. Modern excavations prove some never left. At Tikal, simple peasant huts were built atop abandoned palaces within decades. Their greatest adaptation: switching from monument building to invisibility, the Lacandan Maya survived by becoming unfindable. Today's Maya activists decode ancient glyphs not as archaeologists, but as heirs reclaiming their narrative. This isn't a story of disappearance, it's the ultimate lesson in cultural metamorphosis under pressure. In 2018, lidar lasers stripped away Guatemala's jungle veil, revealing 61,000 hidden structures, a revelation comparable to finding Atlantis. The Mirador Basin's shocking density, 1,000-plus structures per square mile, proves classic Maya populations neared 20 million at their peak. Some discoveries rewrite history. A 110-mile superhighway connecting Tikal to Teotihuacan suggests direct contact with the Aztecs' predecessors. At Holmel, lasers exposed a 2,000-year-old pyramid hidden under later construction, like Russian nesting dolls of lost civilizations. Most haunting, vast networks of defensive walls never mentioned in inscriptions, proof the Maya knew their world was ending. 2023's bombshell: agricultural terraces covered every possible slope, suggesting desperate overexploitation before collapse. Some new cities show no signs of occupation, ghost projects abandoned mid-construction as crisis hit. At Noctun, litter revealed a grim surprise: massive earthworks diverting rivers during droughts, the hydrological equivalent of panic. Most revolutionary, the discovery that up to 40% of Maya cities were actually refugee camps from the collapse era. These lasers don't just show us where they lived, they illuminate the precise moment the lights went out across an empire. The Maya collapse whispers to us through partial truths: a half-buried altar here, a drought-stricken lakebed there, but never the full story. Imagine perfect storms, kings losing divine legitimacy as crops failed, merchants abandoning trade routes and neighbors turning hostile, all within a generation. This wasn't like the lightning strike that felled Rome, but rather a civilization slowly bleeding out from countless wounds. Modern Maya keep traditions alive, the sacred calendar, the corn rituals, yet even their oral histories blur the final act. Technology reveals where they lived and died, but not the despair in a mother's eyes as she bundled her last belongings. Some secrets stay buried not from lack of evidence, but because the Maya themselves took the answers to the forest. The Maya transformation echoes through time, not as a cautionary tale of disappearance, but as humanity's eternal dance with adaptation. When archaeologists brush dust from a noble's tomb, they're not just studying the past, they're holding up a mirror to our own city's vulnerabilities. Every vine-strangled temple poses the same haunting question we face today: when does resilience become reinvention, and when does it become retreat? The jungle may have swallowed their plazas and silenced their prayers, but in that quiet we hear the most profound lesson of all. Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating stories from Recall the Chronicles. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.